What's going on, everybody? I'm John Stamper from John Stamper Media, and welcome back to another episode with the amazing team from Scopic. This has been an awesome learning series, AI innovations, digital healthcare, and business transformation. And we're going to continue to have another conversation today. Very excited to be with the Chief Operating Officer at Scopic, Mladen Lazic, who is joining me. It is about 8 o'clock p.m. in the beautiful Belgrade. And Mladen, it's great to be with you. How are you doing?
Yeah, thanks, John. Good to be with you as well. Doing okay. Hyped for this whole series, so I hope that I will contribute.
Awesome. Well, I know you have a lot to share, especially around the topic of vibe coding. Before Mladen gets started, everybody, I just wanted to kind of go through and give you a little bit of background. As I've shared in this learning series, the Scopic team is not only all over the world, but when it comes to custom software and being innovators in this space, they bring so much to the table. And so I definitely want to make sure I kind of share a little bit about Mladen's background. Basically, computer programming, Mladen, for you started in high school, right? When national awards, ultimately won some scholarships to some multiple universities. So programming has kind of been in your blood since the beginning, which is awesome. Got his master's degree in electrical and computer science engineering, and pretty much has been on this journey with Scopic ever since 2011. He joined Scopic as a software engineer and developer. 2018, he became the director of engineering. And then in 2022, as Scopic evolved, he took on the role of COO and, of course, joined the board of directors. So it's been a fun history with Scopic, and especially in the computer programming world for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, computer programming and everything around software was basically the part of my entire life. Yeah, I mean, before Scopic, I was, switching companies during my university. But then, once I got my master's degree, I started at Scopic, and I had no reasons to change ever since. So yeah, it has been
Awesome.
exciting so far.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to jump right in. So for those that are seeing this, or they've saw that, they saw the thumbnail, vibe coding, they're probably, okay, what is vibe coding? So I think that's a great place for us to jump in and maybe have you summarize for all of those that are watching, like, what exactly is vibe coding?
Yeah, so vibe coding is now a new term that kind of is trending. It's basically using AI to write the code for you instead of yourself. So with the expansion of this artificial intelligence, especially after ChatGPT, we have now many of these large language models that are very capable. So one of the most practical use of those large language models is to actually be able to provide you coding assistance. But we have reached the level of maturity of these tools or these models that they can actually do much more than just assist while typing your own code. They can actually code for you. So vibe coding is basically an approach to software development where you don't really write the code yourself, but you instruct an artificial intelligence to write it for you. And with the promise of, the whole idea started to boost productivity and maybe even enable you to do stuff that you were not able to do before due to lack of knowledge, lack of skills, or general lack of specifics in that specific technology that you want to use.
So I was really excited about this conversation, Mladen, because I have been wondering, as with the emergence of AI, how would that work in the custom software world, and especially as you hear more and more individuals, they can build a site, you can use AI in the coding side, but you did talk about what the promise has been. So, like, as this has kind of emerged on the scene, what has been the promise of it? And I think from your perspective, as someone who's been in this for a long time, what are you most excited about?
Well, in general, the most exciting part for, I think, business world is the productivity, right? The productivity that this brings is one of the things that the business side of the industry is very excited about, right? But then also, there are other things like, bridging the gap between different languages, different frameworks, getting up to speed with new things much faster, and essentially being able to do things that previously would probably take you weeks to grab a hold of first, and then do the work. Now you can pretty much jump right into it. So that's basically the most exciting thing about all this.
Well, and as you know, with AI in every industry, everybody, asking questions such as how will this impact the industry? So I'd love to maybe have you get into that with what you all are learning at Scopic, and I think how it's going to affect things when you look at software moving forward.
Yeah. So I mean, there are three aspects to it. I would say that we need to take into consideration when we are discussing about impact. Right. First aspect is how will this affect the whole development process, so the whole software development lifecycle, right? I mean, so far traditionally there has been, the traditional way people were the ones writing code, right? So they had team leads navigating, their teams to write the code, and you had code reviews, and then you had the quality assurance after that done, etc., etc. So now this changes a bit because the biggest part of this software development lifecycle, which is coding, is being done by a machine, right, by an AI. So the way this now changes the process is that we need to first adapt to the speed of the code generation that these large language models can do, and then also adapt to the fact that now everybody will need to be kind of reviewers more than coders, right? So you basically will be instructing a large language model or these tools to code for you, and then you have to review and be careful about what you are doing in that sense. So then that also brings the whole other pulls together all the other parts of SDLC, that you need to be able to find the proper branching model so that you don't get lost in all those changes, because changes are happening fast. Then also, how do you now actually distribute the work among multiple people, given that the speed of development is much faster? So it will have an impact on the SDLC, definitely, and hopefully the impacts will mostly be positive. But you never know. It's still early on, and we're not even sure what type of negative impact we will get. Right. So that's the first kind of type of impact. Now the second type of impact is how will this affect software engineers, right? So so far, I mean, this has not yet reached the level that makes software engineers obsolete, not even close, but it does get them to be more productive, which means that if you are everybody working in the software engineering industry should be pushing towards adopting these tools and adopting their way of thinking and their way of doing things, so that they don't become obsolete in terms of one person using these tools and another one who doesn't use these tools. It would be a pretty much non-compete type of scenario. Basically, there will be no competition there. The productivity of the person using the tools will be much faster and higher. So what I would say, the way it will impact software engineers is that they are all going to start being more reviewers than coders, and they're all going to need to accept to use these tools, because otherwise they're just not going to be able to be competitive on the market, right? Mm-hmm. And then the third aspects of impact is how this affects businesses, right? Mm-hmm. And now it has a kind of a twofold effect for product companies, or software as a service companies, that are basically selling that software is actually the backbone of it, but it's not the service. The service is something else. Mm-hmm. Those will actually see a major, I would say, benefit from this, because costs will go down, productivity will be higher. They will be able to push out more features for the same amount of time and money. So I think that there will be overall very, very positive impacts on products businesses. Now, for the service-oriented businesses like ourselves, this is a bit more tricky and a bit more challenging, because being able to produce or develop a software in 50% faster or 70% faster also means that you get to charge 70% less, right, for the same software. And also it means that there needs to be an influx of new clients and new projects coming in to kind of fill in that gap that is left behind. So we are very much now facing a great challenge as how do we use this effectively, and how to use this to our benefit. And yeah, so those are basically the biggest impact I'm seeing right now on with this vibe coding or using AI in terms of the development.
So as I'm hearing you talk about this again, I'm thinking this through the lens of a business, an entrepreneur, a company that would benefit from working together with Scopic and the experience that all of you have in this space. I still feel like, Mladen, that like I need the direction as a business to know which way to go when it comes to building AI into my platform, right? And I love the idea that you shared on it's going to be so important for software engineers to really know and understand how to use these tools. Because I know, experience over the years that I've had with software. I mean, for those teams that I trusted, a big piece of why I trusted them is they were able to guide me into areas that I didn't even know existed when it came to software. And so I would love your thoughts on that, right? Because I mean, I think as an internal optimist, I mean, I love being real about kind of where AI is going in the software space, but I still do feel like for a lot of businesses that are going to have software be a part of what they do to service their clients, having that lead and direction from you all is really important.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and that will crystallize and be, and we will see that this is absolutely true in the upcoming months or years, I'm sure. Right now, there is still, I mean, I think that some people feel like when you try these tools out, right, it feels that you can do much more and that you don't really need support from engineers, that you might be able to do this by yourself, because what you're trying is probably very simple, right? And these tools are actually invented to have a simple start, quick start, right? But very soon after you start using these tools, it becomes clear that you cannot do it without previous experience, without the engineering background, without the strong base, like base of the software engineering. Has to be strong in order to understand what the tool is doing, why is it doing it like that, and possibly to even tell it, this is not right, you have to do it differently. So I would say that from that perspective, you're absolutely right. So there will be a need, and I don't think that clients will be able to just take over, these tools and do this themselves. They will need the guidance in all areas of software development, like from the very get-go, when you actually define the product. So that part, with product owners, product managers, designers, that will be as it is so far. Right, to need absolutely help there. But then also when it starts development, you need also engineers to architect the software, to think about scalability, to think about security, to think about all these things that these tools might at this point in time will not be able to just think by themselves. So you need to guide them in a way that they build that the LLM builds a software that is secure, scalable, and everything else. It will not do that by itself, right? So definitely, this is not going to render engineers obsolete, 100% not. It's just going to make them more productive. And then also in time, I think it will show that people that are not engineers, that are not software developers, will sooner or later have hard times using this, and they might even get into problems that they will not be able to overcome without actually hiring somebody else. So this is where we are now kind of trying to position ourselves as experts and as partners to our clients, so that we actually guide them and then use these tools to get them to a quicker proof of concepts, get them to a quicker UI UI designs, reduce their development time so that the costs go down. So we are trying to be partners and together to build their products with them. And I think that's probably going to be the ultimate success scenario for them as well. So,
Yeah, and as you know, I feel like every couple decades, new software technology emerges. It opens up the doors for companies that didn't have an opportunity to reach a larger audience. And you made the example of that with, for example, the team at Scopic being able to use this vibe coding and being able to do some of these things quicker I think what's more exciting is that opens up the door for a lot of businesses where having a software platform used to be maybe something that was a nice to have. Now, as you know, Mladen, it's a need to have. And so I think that it's going to open up so many doors for so many more companies to be able to do that. And so the hope is, I would imagine, is that this vacuum that can be created by companies like Scopic being able to do more quicker is then going to be able to, hopefully serve more people. And that seems really encouraging.
Well, yeah, I hope that you're right. I mean, at this point, it's pretty unpredictable in a sense that we don't know where these tools and where this AI in general will go. I mean, there's already a lot of investments being made to create autonomous software engineers, to create a better tools that will require less and less guidance and things like that. So depending on how that goes, this opportunity for businesses to actually invest in software, even businesses that previously didn't have the enough funds or didn't have any opportunity to do that. So they will be able to do that now in a cheaper and more cost-effective way, and hopefully, using the services from companies like Scopic to guide them through that, right? So I would say that I don't expect. I mean, software is here to stay, 100%, right? Everything is so this doesn't make software obsolete. It just makes it more affordable and approachable to everybody. And yeah, hopefully companies like ours will adopt as well, like we are trying to this whole AI, not just vibe coding, but AI in general, and that we can also bring value with our expertise and experience so that this is used in the most effective way. And then if people start building more software, well, great. That's great for us. Absolutely.
The last thing I wanted to talk to you about was the limitations. I think what's been great about this learning series, I was able, the last episode, as you may recall, was on the legal and compliance side, right? Which is a big piece of this. I mean, it's exciting, like you mentioned, to be able to create software, maybe do it a little bit quicker because of a lot of these AI tools. But what a lot of companies may not be taking into consideration is the whole legal piece. And of course, you all have done a great job with your team to kind of help on that side. What are, when it comes to vibe codings, Mladen, would be some limitations for those that are watching this, a business to think about? They're excited about where these AI tools could go on the software side, but also really important to understand the limitations to think about when utilizing some of these tools.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, promises that we got so far from vibe coding are really, really good, right? I mean, from our experience, I mean, there's some of the tools that we built, for example, smaller ones, internal tools, we have managed to build them like 80% faster, which means 80% less cost-wise, etc. But what we have realized also is that there are limitations, right? It's not really all sunshine and rainbows, right? So you have to, so people have to have some notion that this is still, it has limitations and requires proper supervision and guidance, right? So, for example, vibe coding as a term means that, pretty much describes approach where non-technical people are using this to code, right? What we have realized that's not really a possibility right now, and that vibe coding should be kind of used in conjunction with traditional development, right? So that you both get the best out of this AI, but also don't get too dependent on it, so that you can also maintain the software easily. So some of the changes, sometimes some of the features might actually even still be more cost effective to implement traditionally, right? So the limitations, I would say, at this point is that these tools are not really yet ready for people to just take them and explain, I want this kind of software, and it builds it for you. That's not going to work. And that's, I think, is a rabbit hole that people, if they start getting into it, might actually get, the deeper you go, the more problems you find, right? So it's important to know the limitations. It's important to actually have a proper supervision and review of what the AI is doing. And it's important to recognize when you need to back off and actually maybe go a step back, maybe do things traditionally, in order not to get too caught up in this AI generated code that ends up being too large, or maybe too complex for its purpose, or maybe just an overkill in general. So I would say that's the biggest limitation. Now there's some other smaller, like for example, this all these LLMs right now have physical limitations like context windows and things like that. So the bigger the code base becomes, it will require more skillful developer to actually know how to ask questions, how to instruct this LLM to actually do the job that they need. Because again, once the code base becomes huge, like hundreds and hundreds of files, it becomes very difficult for the large language model or these tools on top of them to actually identify where the change is needed. How do they fix things? How do they actually implement this new feature? Where do they plug it in? That's that big code base. So I would say that people should expect productivity, people should expect lower cost, but they should not expect miracles at this point just yet, right? So it's not yet something that is autonomous, and there are limitations that should be that we should be careful about, so that we don't go all in and then fall flat on our head.
Yeah, it's such good insight. I was sitting here thinking about you talking about that. It's one thing if you're a business that does, maybe you host a concert and you host it one time, and the only time you would ever need a piece of software was to maybe sell tickets for that event, and then you never have to worry about it again. But as you know, Mladen, a lot of the customers that you all work with and are helping solve problems for at Scopic are companies that want to have scalable businesses, right? They want to grow, new things are going to happen. And so with that comes more things to think about as their software evolves. And so I love the fact that you shared, like, this can kind of build a life of its own as you start to build on it. And so that maintenance part and that direction is just as important, the insight that you all provide, as would be the excitement of, like, initially kind of, like you said, using some of the tools and getting the initial site out there, but then not thinking about what the future holds. So super important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one part of it, like maintenance, right? Be ready
Yes.
to build something that's going to be maintainable and not just one time and then one and done, right?
Yes.
And then there are also things like, for example, this AI and large language models. They're prediction machines in general, and what they do in some cases. For example, we have had cases where we tell it to do something, it does that, but also extrapolates our request and assumes that we want, a lot more other things, like, we should probably fix this, and then it goes into this cycle of changes in the code that then makes the code, it completely messes up the code, right?
Yeah.
And then you need to take a step back. And I mean, we have done so far, when it comes to this initiative from within Scopic, we have a set of guides and rules how we use them. Like, we don't allow this to prevent these things to be able to roll back if that happens. So there are things that that this large language model that makes this large language models unpredictable, and that is why it's very important to kind of don't let it have full autonomy just yet, right? So be careful what it's doing. Make sure what it's building is building for long-term maintenance, and it's building in a way that fits the needs, right? As opposite of just making it work.
Yes, so good. And I think that was the whole idea of this learning series, right? I mean, I think the big takeaway for today, Mladen, was when it comes to some of these exciting AI tools and vibe coding, handle with care, right? You handle your business with care. And I think that's what you all do such a great job at Scopic. And so I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your time. Want to encourage everybody we want to learn more about the great work that Scopic is doing. We're really encourage you to watch some of the other episodes of this learning series, as I've had the opportunity to speak with so many of their great leaders and developers from around the world. And then, of course, you can reach out to them, via the website. And if you're watching this on social media, the links are there, and same thing with email. So, Mladen, thank you so much for your time today. It's encouraging that companies like Scopic are out there on the frontier, kind of helping us learn how to handle with care these AI tools, especially vibe coding. And really want to thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thank you, John. This was a pleasure, and hopefully this will be insightful for the viewers. And yeah, looking forward to see what the future brings in this area.
Awesome. Well, have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon. See you, Mladen.
Thank you, John. You too. Bye bye.